Hey, welcome everyone to another AZ Ray video. And today we're actually reviewing a film. Remember that thing I used to do? Today we're going to talk about Ballerina, which is a film that I'm really excited about. In case you guys don't know, I'm actually a big John Wick fan. So I've been anticipating this film for a while. So yeah, thanks for joining me for another AZ Ray video. Before we get started, as we always do, there's going to be timestamps on the bottom just to break everything down. And also, the reason why I like to put timestamps is just in case you guys don't want spoilers, I'll make sure to put what sections will be spoilers and what section won't be spoilers. So the way we're going to go about this is we're gonna break a couple different things of the film down. So let me kind of give you guys an outline of my vision. So the first thing we're gonna go is just my overall thoughts on like the story, the execution, the plot. The second thing is that we're gonna break down some of the symbols that were in the film. And then after that, I'm just gonna give you my general review, give you my rating from 1 through 10, and then we'll go from there. Ballerina is an interesting film starring Ana de Armas. And basically, it's a woman that loses everything that's out to get revenge without going too much into the plot. One of my favorite things about the films, and most of the John Wick films share this phenomenon, is that the action choreography was great. And then the soundtrack stays true as to all the other John Wick films with that, EDM, electronica, trance kind of like feel of just people being in a daze with club party music in the background and just kind of enough like this fun action rave like feel film. And so, yeah, a lot of you'll notice it in the lighting, hence the lighting that we have for this film with, with the purple background and whatnot. We try to pay our homage to the film, and this film does the same thing too. The greatest thing about this film, one of the strongest things that it does well, is that if you haven't watched any of the John Wick films, it does just enough for you to like understand it without having to see the other films. So it's a great film to kind of watch if you haven't seen the other John Wick films and you're John Wick curious or you've heard of John Wick. It's like, yeah, check out Ballerina. I'm sure you'll like it, or you'll see if John Wick's a cup of tea for you or not. So like I said, the action was great. Ana de Armas in general is a great actress, but this is where I feel like the film kind of went down. One of the biggest criticisms I have on the film is the fact that the side characters felt very bland, and the supporting cast and even the antagonists felt very bland. They felt very vanilla. They didn't add that much, in my opinion, to the plot. And I think that was some of the best strengths of the other films. You had so many likable characters. The last film had amazing likable characters from the Japanese angle. We had the blind Chinese hitman. We've had like Common, who was a very famous rapper turned actor. He did a great job as a villain. We even had Ruby Rose as a badass mute character as well. We had all these interesting characters and personas that helped give this world depth, and there was none of that in this film. And that was something that I think that kind of took away from the overall execution of the film. It was basically like Ana de Armas carrying this film on her shoulders, and because her cast didn't help paint the picture well, it left everything kind of bland. But the action is still fun. It's still creative. And it is semi-realistic with its incorporation of jiu-jitsu, judo, sambo, various joint locks, kickboxing, capoeira, and some parts a little more movie magic, fantastical. But as far as reality goes, they were generally okay. Some of my favorite things about the fight choreography is the fact that the fights were actually kind of realistic. They didn't make Ana de Armas this like unrealistic, overpowered tank. They're like, no, she's a petite woman and she has some martial arts skills. She has some weaponry skills. So they showed her falling and fumbling and still working through it and being resilient and having that grit. Because for those of you who have never trained martial arts or who have never fought before, some of the most important and compelling elements of fighting is just resilience. Sometimes if you have the will and the stamina, the cardio, the conditioning, you can outwill your opponents. Most of the time, your opponents, they only have a small window of attacking, or they only have like a couple a couple of things that they're good at. And if you can overpower that, like let me put it to you another hypothetical, right? So let's say your opponent's really good at punching and really good at kicking. And let's say you're more of a person that's better on the ground with doing submissions. And if you can survive those kicks and those strikes with the opponent, that's a strong mind game because they're like, oh dang, they're dodging or they're surviving my kicks and punches. What else do I do? And that becomes the mental warfare, and you can start slowly chipping at their mind, and that gives you openings to bring them to the ground and defeat them. It's not always that black and white, but I was just trying to give you guys a simple explanation for those of you that don't have an understanding of martial arts or have never trained martial arts, and just to kind of have you understand what I'm trying to say and what I appreciated about the film. Because, yeah, realistically, you're not always going to win every situation, right? And if someone's like beating you up, let's say they're on top and they're like beating your face in, right? But maybe that's what you want because that gives you access to their arms and their legs, and then you can reverse them and get some kind of choke or joint manipulation from the bottom, and boom, boom. And then, you have your knife, you have your gun, you have different things that you can move to your advantage as well. So yeah, you can move it on your terms. And just because you're the smaller and weaker opponent, it doesn't mean you can't win the fight. You just have to be more creative. It's not going to look the same that you're just seeing in the typical macho films where the guys are just big and strong and resilient, right? Women, they're different, they're flexible, and they can use their various skills. So I did appreciate that realism into the film. So this is the other section where we're going to break down all the various art pieces that were in the background, but I want to give the big emphasis to the Ruska Roma leader because she had an interesting Judith painting in the background. And I wanted to give the symbolism behind that because it has very strong symbolism to actually feminism. And that's what I find very compelling and interesting about it. So I wanted to break some things down regarding that. So what I wanted to break down is an interesting art piece that's by the female leader of the Ruska Roma. She's a very powerful Russian woman, and she's a member of the High Table. Yeah, the director played by Angelica Houston. If you notice in the film and in the background, we have a very powerful painting that is an amazing representative of modern feminism. It's Artemisia's Cantalecci's Judas beheading Holofernes. And it's based on a biblical story of empowerment, actually. Judith is depicting beheading Holofernes, the Assyrian general, and she basically successfully deceives him by luring her into his bed to behead him. The man was trying to rape her. He is known for having various effective crimes and stuff. This painting is a very heavy and gory depiction of empowerment and how a woman can stand her ground against a male and just show the significance of why righteousness and duty and justice needs to prevail. And it's a very powerful image because the Ballerina location is filled with women. And this empowerment gives it a deeper meaning because it shows them that, that women can be empowered and they can be strong and beautiful and have all the various things. What's interesting about the character of Judith, the one that was beheading Holofernes, she was considered the Old Testament prefiguration of the Virgin Mary and is depicted piously and whatnot. And she's also seen as a potential archetype for Artemis, the Greek god of the hunt. The other thing that the gore was supposed to represent too of the thing was that it's supposed to represent this honor, and the Ruska Roma is very big about honor and duty, and the blood that's spilling is supposed to say that basically the church was going to be ruthless against its enemies. For this next section, I want to break down the various tattoos and their meanings. The ballerina character, played by Ana de Armas, Eva Macario, Her back tattoo translates to light in the darkness. In contrast to Keanu Reeves' character, his tattoo translates to fortune favors the bold. And I think both of those show different contrasts with both of the characters' paths. Eve Macario's Ballerina's character had to essentially had to persevere through a lot of darkness and through a lot of hardship to ultimately overcome her past. While John Wick had to dare to be bold, had to put himself in these strenuous situations when the odds were against them, and essentially formed himself to become a legend. Tattoos, because all the tattoos almost kind of represent a different credos or some kind of onus and duty that every character has. And it gives some of the things about the depth, because that's another thing that this film, like other John Wick film, does well. It creates this very interesting world building, this interesting world that kind of feels potentially real, kind of dystopian, or maybe this secret underground world of hitmen and this fantastical world. Maybe fantastical isn't the right word. It's not fantasy, but in this, yeah, in this gritty film. And so it's always interesting to see, the various background and seeing cameos from various characters in the past and whatnot. And now to get into my review and thoughts. So my review for this film, right? I'm gonna go out and say it. I give this film probably like a 6 out of 10. And I'm not saying it's a bad film. If you're into the John Wick films or you just want to see a fun action movie, watch it. You'll like it. But the reason I give it a 6 is because, like I stated previously in my thoughts on the analysis of the plot, it didn't really it didn't offer anything. It was a good introduction to a new character, and it didn't turn me off of this new character. I hope to see more from Eve Macaro and this character of Ballerina. I want to see more films because I think this is the beginning of a positive trend, and I hope she can have like her own set of badass femme fatale film action badass action star films, because we need more female action stars. And if she can have her own successful franchise, I think we're better for it. I think, yeah, in this climate and in these times, I think it's nice that we can have another action film starting a woman and maybe a potential action film franchise starting a woman. So I think it'd be a move towards the positive, and it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. It'll be creative, and it'll be cool. Something that like Atomic Blonde comes to mind, which is another great action spy film starting a female lead. I think this could kind of, go into that type of territory and just kind of expand more. Because yeah, this was a good beginning, but hopefully we can get more, like I said previously, maybe some interesting co-stars, maybe some other antagonists, some other stories. Everyone feels like just somebody brief that we see for a moment, but like we never get any depth on any of the characters other than the main character, and a little bit on the villain, but not enough to make it satisfying. So that's why, hopefully they can improve that in the sequel and have some like interesting foils in the background so they can have some more contrast. So I give this movie a 6 out of 10. I still recommend it. I don't think it's a bad film. Anna de Armas does great in it, and all the other various cameos do great. And yeah, there's a lot of fun to it. It's a fun film. You're not going to get any deep takeaways. There's some interesting dialogue, but some of it, to be honest, came off like a little cheesy. But the action, I think, will keep you entertained, and then the plot is decent enough, and the story in the background is interesting enough that it'll keep you intrigued throughout the film. But I hope they make a lot of improvements for the sequel, and I hope the film does well. That's why I'm talking about it, because I'm a big John Wick fan. The Continental show was okay. I feel like the pacing was inconsistent, but all the major John Wick films, 1 through 4, were great. So I hope maybe some of the previous directors from the other John Wicks can maybe poison. Why did I say poison? I hope the directors and the people that worked on those films can sprinkle some of their magic and maybe make an improved sequel, because there's a lot to grow from. I think it was an interesting prologue, an introduction of a character, but it left more to be desired. So I hope we see more. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. That was my breakdown to A to Z. So thanks for checking out another AZ Ray video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.